And just make sure we're showing up on YouTube. There we are. Okay.
Cool.
We're live. Okay. Welcome, everyone, to Aaron's Reading Room for a live book discussion. Tonight, we're going to be talking about Empire of Silence by Chistopher Ruocchio. Is that how you pronounce it? Ruocchio. Okay. Yeah. Christopher Ruocchio. This is the first book in the Sun Eater series. I don't know how many books he's planned in it.
7, but 5.
But isn't one getting split?
Yes, so it was originally supposed to be 5, and now it's being 6.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I am joined by Alicia, who is a constant presence on YouTube Live. So thank you for being here. And my good friend Ryan.
Getting my own channel. So
yeah. Yes, thank you for coming. And then my good friend Ryan is here. He's the reason that we were all here. So Ryan asked us to read this book, and so now we're here talking about it. Ryan, go ahead and give us your thoughts on this book and the Sun Eater series in general.
Well, it's one of those things where for this rereading, this is my second time around reading it. My first time around, I had the fortune to be able to read a couple books in the series at the same time to kind of see it go. But this is really basically a story about this person born in a galactic empire and how, his personal fate changes the lives of everyone in the universe, basically.
Yes, he does have that effect. Like, he has an effect on everyone around him, doesn't he?
Yeah, he definitely does. He's definitely, and one thing you realize straight off out of the book is that he's very melodramatic, and he makes no bones about that either.
Yeah.
At least he owns up to it. Most people that are very melodramatic.
He does own up to it at the end.
Yeah. I mean, even those moments where, there's those moments where he's talking with his tutor that basically is his educator for most of his young life is just like, you're so melodramatic all the time.
Yeah.
The teacher was
he thinks he lives in a melodrama, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Or like a soap opera or something.
Indeed, yes. So, initial thoughts on the book overall? How about you, Alicia?
Like star rating or just thoughts?
Just thoughts.
I really liked the middle of it. The beginning and the end kind of lost me.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just because I haven't continued on yet, but it took me good 10 chapters to get into it, and then I was really getting into it, and then I want to say chapter 45 was where it peaked for me, and then it slowly went down. A little bit.
Yeah, it's okay. First, I have to start off by saying that I have read so much sci-fi, and it's not really in my appetite right now. And I definitely don't require stories of this magnitude at this point in my life. And so it was a bit rough for me, but yeah, I would have to say that I think the book dragged in some places, beginning and end. Yeah, and it just seemed to take. I felt like it spent more times on the boring sections than the parts that could have really been fun.
Yeah, and then it just glossed over a lot of stuff that you were like, but wait, I want to know what's going on over here. Not what's going on in your head.
Absolutely. So I don't know if we want to go linear, but I'll just say real quick. When he was a Myrmidon and fighting in the arena, I feel like they did not spend enough time on there, that they really wasted, he really wasted, putting an exciting element into it. Like he described one battle, and then it was just kind of an overview of his career as a fighter.
Yeah. Like it was telling and not showing, yes?
Yeah. It was just like, oh, I did great then. I won every battle. And
yeah.
And then, and we became famous. And I was like, well, spend more time on that. Spend more time on being famous. I want to.
Exactly. I got very Name of the Wind vibes.
Absolutely. Have you read Ryan, have you read Name of the Wind?
By
Patrick Rothfuss? Yeah. It's it had a very similar pattern to it, which I guess just the hero's journey too, if you want to stretch it out. And
Right.
yeah, so there's the, I don't know, Quoth and Name of the Wind wasn't so much. He kind of started out in rags, but rags he was comfortable in, and then went to like the real like poor rags after his family was murdered. And this one, it's a bit different. He's kind of well, so he's part of the nobility, but I couldn't quite tell where his father landed in the hierarchy of things, because he wasn't quite a lower, like,
right.
That was confusing.
It's one of those things where I think it was explained that basically on the mother side of the family was like where they had their place in the hierarchy, like they had the higher status, and as distant relations to the emperor in that series, where his dad was the one that married in and definitely made all the strategic decisions for the family and was able to make them financially wealthy. So, they had the status, he had the means to turn that status into profit.
Okay.
Type of thing.
That makes sense.
So, it's where in the series they talk a lot about, their heritage and stuff, and where this nobility, they're basically bred, they're genetically perfect. These nobles live hundreds, if not 1,000 or 2 years, and while the peasants still just live their normal 80 years and then they pass away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I like the mother. She was I wanted like her story more than all the other stuff. He was interesting.
Right.
Yeah,
The
she
mom-
was interesting. Well, you get such a distant view of her at first, and then when like you finally met her, you're like, oh, okay, I kind of like you. You're actually a decent person. Which that, now that I think about it, yeah, this book has one of those themes of like there's hardly a decent person in the whole thing, including our main character, Hadrian Marlowe.
The only person I like is like later on in the book, and I don't want to say if we're going in time order.
All right. Well, let's do this. So he starts out and he's a young aristocrat. He thinks he's in line to rule his father's planet, and he's pretentious as hell and very naive. And
I was waiting for you to say it.
I felt it spent too long on this part, and it was very Dune-like. It was very much like the beginning of Dune, other than the fact that he doesn't have a loving father. His father's pretty much a son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. The only affection I think he ever got was from the teacher, and I can't think of his name off.
Right. Tor gets
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
Okay, and so the title Tor is like there were several people. It's like kind of a teacher or tutor or something like that.
Yeah, basically in that universe, there's a order of basically, because they're so restricted on computers and like what they can do with technology because of the religious the Chantry. They've got these people that have basically trained to be, human encyclopedias, where they just retain all this knowledge, and they're kind of like the librarians, if you will, of the universe, as far as their job is to retain all this knowledge and have it ready and be available. And it seems like throughout the universe, like their kind of place, it doesn't really explain it too well, but it's like, these people advise all the rulers of all the planets or different factions, and help them guide their whoever they're responsible for to make good decisions for their people.
So then Mentats from Dune is
exactly exactly.
To give a good example. All right, Alicia, did you have any early tabs that you wanted to talk about that were kind of in this
my first tab was that they didn't have to do anything. The kids were genetically perfect,
except for height. They couldn't nail height for some reason.
Well, it's one of those things where, and even in the book when they talk about the the children of the nobles that aren't genetically engineered, that are naturally birthed, how because their genes are so heavily edited, they actually end up, if they're naturally born, coming out deformed, having some sort of disabilities, whether it's physical or mental or whatever. And they talk just about how even in the series where it's like, am I even really a human? In the beginning, when he first meets his first genetically engineered person that he's actually talking to, when he's on the spaceship leaving his homeworld, he's like, oh, I can't believe he compared him to me, because he's just this genetically engineered person. And it's like, I'm the apex of human engineering.
Yeah, no, I like that leprechaun guy took him down a peg there.
Yeah.
Like, no, we're the same thing.
That's what I feel like a lot of this book is he was so like self-important, and people were just like, no, dude, you're really not. Like,
yeah, so he's very, he wants to like show his difference between, he wants to prove himself better than his father and his brother, they're very alike in being bloodthirsty and just, wanting to lord over people and really enjoying holding that power. But at the beginning, Hadrian's kind of like this, oh well, I read books, and so I'm better than you all, but he's like a better fighter too. But I love that he got taken down a peg when he decided to walk home from the Gladiator arena. And I was expecting it to be just the typical, like, oh, he's gonna, whip his knife out and do some martial arts and kick these street urchins' asses. But no, he got his ass kicked, and I love that. That was great.
Well, I think that's a part that it really it kind of also taught him that no matter how rich and powerful you are, you can't stop everything. You can't control, simply by saying, oh look, I'm a noble. That's not going to save you in the moment if someone doesn't care.
Yeah, right. He actually asked them to fight him fair.
Right.
Yeah. And that's kind of mirroring that, like, titles don't mean anything. That's mirroring the real world, because titles don't mean anything just because you're so and so or whatever.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we spent a lot of time there, and then he's going to be sent to the Chantry, which it's a religious organization that just holds power over everything, controls what kind of technology people can have, because it would threaten their power if they just let technology run rampant. And he has this extreme moral objection to the organization itself. And so he gets the one person in his life that he cares about, and that probably cares about him the most. He gets him cast out as a criminal because he's whining about he doesn't want to go to this school or whatever, which we find out later is like the school of the Chantry.
Yeah.
Right, where his father talks about the whole reason for sending him is that, oh, I can use you as a political pawn in my games to help me advance our houses, is kind of the rationale where for him, he's very much like, he dreams of the stars and adventures, and basically when he learns that he's going to be sent to the Chantry, he's going to learn how to terrorize people.
Right.
And that's where he's so vehemently against it. He's a lover, not a fighter, and he doesn't understand that kind of power or why you would ever need to act that way.
Yeah, I guess he's a lover. He's
in a bubble.
He's in a bubble. Yeah,
he's in a bubble. Like, he doesn't understand how this world works.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I don't know that he necessarily doesn't understand how it works. It's just he has to reconcile how he thinks the world should work and how it really works. He thinks he can bend the universe to his will. And it's one of those things where, anyone with any sort of power, if they work hard enough to get to that power, I often say that, they can't change the system's probably going to change them.
Yes. Yeah. And yeah, this book had a very common theme of everything goes wrong. It's like he has the best laid plans in his mind, and none of them go right.
Yeah, but he doesn't have a backup plan if they do go wrong.
No,
like he doesn't have. If A doesn't work, I have B, C, E, and D, and he was just like, "Oh, it's gonna work," and then when it didn't, he didn't know what to do.
Yeah, that he was at the whims of whoever was there at the times to take advantage of him.
I actually really liked when they take him to be the priest or whatever. The pirates, I guess, were they considered pirates?
Yes,
the less than reputable traders.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he thinks his mentor is going to, or he's got a plan to like go be a scholiast himself, which is what his mentor is, but that doesn't work out and things go bad there. And then his mother ends up helping him escape the planet, but he essentially gets shanghaied. But we don't even really know what happened. He just ends up being pulled out of this cryosleep tank on this weird planet, and he's got nothing with him except his familial ring. And so that then goes into the street rat phase of the hero's journey.
The Aladdin portion is what I call it.
The Aladdin.
There you go. Yeah.
That's what I was calling it. Because my friend was messaging me. He's like, "Where are you in it?" I'm like, "In the Aladdin portion." And he goes, "Oh, okay."
You know exactly what you're talking about.
Exactly. No, definitely. And just, yeah, that's one where I wish they had expanded a little bit more, and that they had like, so when he's in the Aladdin portion per se, you know, he meets his comrade in arms, Cat, and she kind of saves him from himself and kind of teaches him how to exist in that sector of society. And I just wish that there had been more development of that relationship. I think we had talked before, and it was like, you know, there was illusions that they had a romantic relationship, but there was just literally like 2 lines that just slightly alluded to it.
That they lied, they laid naked, and then that was it.
Yeah, that there was
like,
naked
guys, like,
days or something. Yeah.
And
like,
then
wait, what?
And later in the book, he was trying to think how to explain what she was to him, and he thought, you know, lover at one point when he was going through the things of what to call her. So, which a little creepy because she was 16, so
she was a child. She was a child.
But and what was his age at that time?
Yeah, because
I don't think
he was like 19.
Yeah,
so
I mean, it's one of those things where you also have to look at it in that lens. Like he wasn't super creeper status.
But if we count cryo sleep, he was like 60 something.
There you go. There you go. But I think it was also like that transition where he's showing, you know, like, okay, this is kind of his last hurrah as a child before he becomes more of an adult, like once she passes on, and like they're doing other stuff where like it moves him to grow up a little bit when he realizes that nothing is permanent.
Right. And they glossed over after Cat was removed from the story that he like took up with some other gang. It's alluded to not by choice, but it goes like right to him like, trapping and betraying them and
right when they're robbing a shop owner, and he, you know, basically gets away with the goods and leaves everyone else on the hook because they were actually terrible people and he was just marginally terrible.
Yeah.
Do they ever go back to that in the like subsequent books, or no? Is it just glossed over?
No, it's just done.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he could have expanded more on that, like after, well, one on Cat teaching him skills on how to survive, and then him figuring out how to survive on his own without Cat. But I don't know. I guess the story moved on after that to other things, which then brings us to the Myrmidon section, where he was given advice like years before when he was still a street rat, that to go be a Myrmidon in the arenas, and you know, you risk your life, but you could make money fighting and you wouldn't be starving. And it takes him like a year or some to like actually say, oh yeah, okay, maybe that's a good idea.
Wasn't it 3? Or am I wrong?
He spent 3 years on the streets, he thinks.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So any tags or tabs this far in?
Not when he was fighting, but I really liked his friendship with, I can't think of his name.
Switch?
Names in this book were just out of my head. The really nice one that he became friends with about talking about stealing the ship or buying a ship.
Oh yeah, that was Switch.
Switch?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
I liked him. I liked the side characters more than I liked Hadrian.
Yeah, I think so. That's a really cool addition you've got there, Alicia.
My friend brought me to UK because he knows I won't get rid of it if I don't like the book.
There you go. I think that is the British version. British cover art?
Waterstones.
Yeah.
Waterstones? Yeah.
I think I've got a couple different editions.
Because you can't find the American editions anymore. They refuse. They'll print more of these, but after the first print run, they stopped his American covers.
Yeah, I've got hardcovers for everything except for the first one, the Empire
Unless you want to pay $600 for the hardcover, which is
dude, it's one of those things where even Chistopher says that he doesn't even have any extras anymore.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk covers for a sec. The audiobook cover looked awful. I would never pick up that book. It basically looks so dumb.
What did it look like?
It was so bad.
It looks like someone cosplaying a gladiator in front of a sun, like in front of a big sun. It's really bad.
All of them are that bad. It's not just the one. All of them are that bad. They're so bad.
Yeah,
I love the audio narrator.
Yes.
Yes.
I think that was the only reason I could actually finish this book is because the audio narrator was fantastic. And he gave Hadrian the right kind of attitude, but almost gave him too much credit because I think that by his verbal presentation that he was a lot smarter than he actually was, which another line I love was when the count of the planet was like, I thought you were clever. He's like, no, smart and clever are not the same thing.
I have that too.
Right. And I think that's just another acknowledgement of like his inability to, masterfully rule the world that he's in, despite his status at certain points when he's sitting at the peak of it and he still does stupid things.
Mm-hmm.
Just like when he challenges the priest to the duel. Where he basically, because in that second part of the book, he's basically incognito. He doesn't want anyone to know that he is, part of the noble caste. And, his emotions get the better of him and he reveals it just to prove a point.
For a very sad point.
So it was just so crazy to me that he was so shocked that the count? Yeah. The count was like, you're going to marry my daughter. And I'm like, dude, read the room. Of course. She was all over you.
Exactly. We all knew it was going to happen. Right. He was just like, oh,
you idiot.
Well, so that was pretty clear there. I also thought it might have taken that kind of put him on the flip side of him being lower than a noble that fancies him and essentially just demanding I'm the noble and I like you, so take your pants off. Because he I wouldn't say almost did it, but he had a interest in someone lower than him on his home planet and confused her service for attraction.
Well, I don't think that he necessarily does that, but he just doesn't realize there's such a power imbalance until he makes that move and kisses her and he realizes, holy crap, she thinks she has to do this out of duty, not out of an attraction to me.
Yeah.
So I thought he was going to be put on the other end of that and he was going to have to do his duty, but
I thought she was going to punch him.
Once he realizes that all happens, he whines enough about it.
For
about half a chapter.
Right, but I mean, he goes off about it. Oh, it's still a gilded cage, and a cage is still a cage, even if it's gilded.
Mm.
And it is interesting. It's one of those things where you can't necessarily predict what someone's reaction to a given situation is. Just like if someone won $500,000 in the lottery tomorrow, one person would be thrilled, the other person would be like, well, why wasn't it $1 million?
Yeah.
Yeah, just depends
Yeah.
on their point of view.
And there's a lot of people that win the lottery that end up like killing themselves and other things like
Right.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Don't know how to handle it.
Don't know how to handle it. And especially here in the States, because you can't claim it anonymously to try and avoid fraud.
Right.
So everyone comes out of the woodwork. Hey, we went to kindergarten together.
Yeah, give me $5,000. I knew you when we were 10.
All right. So how he ended up. In the background of this, there's the Cielsen, which is the bad aliens that's how they're presented for most of this book until about maybe halfway, or this moment when he actually gets a chance to talk to one and see one for the first time. And again, with his arrogance, he just thinks he can just march in to this highly protected area, act self-important, and think that things are just going to go just fine. But it doesn't. And then he's put in his gilded cage as we went. And so he became what he thought was the tutor to the Count on this planet. But really the Count was just keeping him in place for his genes to
right
to marry his daughter.
And part of that book, when they're talking about these noble houses and their genetic editing and stuff, where there's a part where he's talking to the Count, and the Count's like, how old do you think I am? And he's talking this noble, his hair started to gray a little bit, and he's like, oh, maybe you're 1,000 years old. And the Count only says, I think it was like, he's like, oh, I'm only 250 or 350 years old.
300, I think.
Yeah, somewhere in there where you kind of get that dynamic why the Count was so envious and like wanted him as basically his daughter's mate, was to get access to his genetics. That was kind of like the status symbol where someone like Hadrian, when he's 1,000, he wouldn't look as old as the Count did at 300 because he had better genetics.
Which I don't get why the Count didn't just. I mean, couldn't he just steal his blood and just take it to the tanks and be like, "Make me my grandchild"?
Right. You don't have to like physically do anything in this world.
Right. But I think it came down to that. It's that status within the noble houses where you can say, "Oh, I have this bloodline as part of my family," where it's also that political, like, even though. At that point, Hadrian had been disowned by his own family, they had the access to his genetics where, once again, because of his mother's side of the family, they were highly sought after. So even though if you wanted to, if there was a list, as far as power and influence, it was down here, but as far as just his genetic status, it was up here. And where the Count was way below that, he was considered like, the nouveau riche, the new money, where he kind of clawed his way up from the bottom. So he saw a way to jump up the ladder significantly by having him marry his daughter.
Yeah, because I can't remember the name of the planet that the Count controlled, but there really wasn't anything special.
Imesh, yeah.
It just was a sweaty, humid planet that no one
kind of a sweaty backwater.
Yeah. All right, and so he's playing tutor, and then he meets his I don't even know what to call her, the researcher, the anthropologist type lady that's way older than him, but he is like falls just puppy love with her, which I liked her.
Like, I want a book about her. Like,
yeah, right.
Like, she was great. It was just watching him like drool. I'm like, okay, dude, we get it. You have like man feelings for the first time. Like, we get it.
Yeah, I said over Voxer, it reminded me of like a third grader that's in love with his
Right.
teacher and is convinced that they're going to get married.
Or like a 15-year-old that just is like, hormones. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just like, ah. Oh, Lord.
Right. Yeah, for me, like I said, it was I didn't get so much that impression as I got like this is the first person that he's met that's on the same level of knowledge and worldview that he has. Like everyone that he meets in the book kind of like, yeah, this system might be messed up, but that's life. And this is the first person that says, no, that's not how life should be. As far as, and she comes from a different area of the universe where they, essentially a different country where they've got different rules and they don't have the same restrictions on their lives as they do in the God, I don't even know what they call it, but basically in the royal kingdom with
the
the
Empire,
the
right?
empire, yeah. um and they talk about that and how they do things completely differently in her area of the universe.
Yes, they're actually allowed to have computers. Essentially, they're allowed to have technology, and so the Chantry, of course, has to just deem them as heretics and
Yeah.
call
Right.
them demons all the
Well,
time
it's
because
one of
they're a
those things that
threat.
was interesting where they were talking about the politics of it and why the doctor was allowed, into their society, where
Mhm.
they were talking about the way it all works is that they can't or each person is considered like a diplomatic representative for their area of the universe. So
Mhm.
they're all treated like diplomats. They can't just say, "Oh, you're a heretic, get out," because they still have to have relations with them.
Mhm. Except for our priest here, the
Priest.
gremlin, the natural born priest who's a hunchback, and he appears kind of. Hadrian doesn't consider him much of a threat because he just takes him on face value. But this guy
Right.
insults the researcher lady, and then we lead to the duel because Hadrian has a
He punched him, didn't he?
yeah, he has he gets his feelings hurt and he punches the priest because uh, he was defending the honor of this woman that did not need their honor defended.
Oh yeah.
That's the part that kind of pissed me off. Like, I get what he was going for, but I'm like, she's telling you not to. Stop it.
Yeah.
Like, just put away your hormones for 15 seconds and stop it.
Yeah. So, and I guess the Count didn't say anything then because Hadrian already actually lost his title and everything and really didn't have the a leg to stand on in challenging the priest to an actual duel. But I guess he was trying to hold his cards close to his chest because he was still hoping that maybe Hadrian come out okay and they could weather it and
Right. Well, and they talked about there, like when he had those plans when he was still a Mermaidian and fighting there in the Colosseum, um, and how he was like, oh, maybe I can, use my title, and basically the faith that my money's good until it isn't. That,
Mhm.
oh, maybe I can, get a ship on credit and then peace out before they realize that my money's no good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And so then the duel, so he thinks he can get first blood, and if he scores first blood, he can just say the
The honor, the challenge was resolved.
yeah. So his challenge is satisfied and things could end. But of course, his best laid plans don't happen, and he underestimated this priest and his fighting ability, and the priest scores first blood, so Hadrian has to actually kill him. And this is the first person that Hadrian's killed too, I believe. So he did the
Yeah,
whole
I think
thing
so.
where
Or the
Right.
first person that we know of that he talked about. He hasn't.
I believe it is the first person that he has to kill. Like in all the other situations of the fighting, it was always against gladiators that were never injured. They just won the fights.
right.
Right.
And even when he was on the streets, there were situations where people got hurt, but never where he knew he killed anyone. And it's one of those things where you also realize like he is just not equipped to kill people in this universe. He is not mentally like capable of like seeing through, killing people. And this priest, the entire book basically treats him like garbage every chance he gets. And you realize that through the whole arc of the story, this priest is just a miserable person that just causes misery everywhere he goes. And even after Hadrian is forced to kill him, he still laments that he had to kill him.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I think the picture, the cover on this is Hadrian standing over his body.
Oh, I never realized that.
I'm thinking
thought of that, but you're right.
Because he had to use his foot to get his sword out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought talking about the gladiators, they had this like invulnerable armor, but it kept points or something. So if a challenger,
so when the armors got hit, they locked up, they registered, and basically, so the gladiators, never were truly injured.
Yeah, but they could kill the Myrmidons and the slaves like no problem.
Exactly.
There's always more slaves.
Say how much blood is coming out of their face as they're smushing them. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was kind of, I'm like, can we not go into that too much? Please.
I did like how he talked about he was fighting one gladiator that she was really good and he thought he was going to lose, but he did something what he called he just gamed their armor, which just like kind of tapped it a bunch and
right and, like, knowing how the system worked.
Yeah,
where basically knowing that a bunch of light taps was going to eventually disable it, where normally in real battle he wouldn't have gone for those hits, because they would have been worthless, but enough of them with that armor, he was able to game it and cause it to lock up and win.
So one moment where I was quite proud of our protagonist here. All right, so after the duel, he killed a priest. It was a sanctioned duel, but the Chantry is in charge of everything, and this priest's mother was a priest as well, even higher up on the chain, and essentially cows the count into sending him into sort of a soft exile for a while, and that's when he gets to do some anthropology and stuff, and
till he can marry what's her name, the princess.
Right.
You're exiled until he can marry.
Yeah. So send him away, get him out of sight for a while until the daughter goes through some period or
basically like her coming of age ritual or whatever.
I'm assuming probably like 16.
I think it was like 21 or something.
Okay.
So once she reaches the age of her first season, if we're talking in Regency terms here.
I genuinely felt bad for her. Like, you could tell how much she liked him, and I felt bad for her. I was like, you poor thing.
Sweet summer child.
Exactly. I was like, I'm jaded, I guess, because I was so the poor thing.
And so this section of the book, this was like essentially just a lesson in anthropology, alien anthropology. Of he went with the researcher lady to a dig site or whatever.
Wasn't it and then some planet or something?
Yeah, so it was on the southern continent where they were on the northern continent, and basically throughout the book he gets a chance to see that there's these aliens that live on the planet, and from what I can understand, they're kind of like giant squids that can walk around. And he's the whole time super fascinated with the xenomorphic life forms in the universe. Like when he talks about some of his education and stuff and what he wants to be, he wants to go and meet alien life forms. He has these stories from his childhood of these people that met these bird people, and all these kind of swashbuckling adventures where that's kind of his goal in life, is he wants to go and explore and do. And so he has some run-ins with these xenomorphs that are, they're not really sentient in the way humans are. and they talk about the Chantry and how they repress so much knowledge as far as technology. Another aspect that comes up is that they repress a lot of information about xenomorphic discoveries, and he finds out that there's these ruins on the planet that nobody knows who built them. And they're all over the universe. And so he becomes enthralled with that. And when he ends up killing the priest and realizes he has to, hightail it out of town for a while, he manages to convince the count to let him go to this dig site on the other side of the planet and, do some exploring and get to know the doctor. Her name's Valka.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't remember her name. Yeah.
All the names in this book just like went straight out of my head after I finished reading it.
Yeah.
I even remember her last name. I don't know why. It's Ondura. Like Valka Ondura.
The plot point stuck. The names just didn't stick.
Yeah, his fellow Myrmidons, they were introduced way too quick. Like other than Switch, who you hear of quite often, the other one's just blurred into this.
You know what's really funny is that
group.
As we're sitting here talking like about the Mermaidians and stuff, and it brings me back to like just some Game of Thrones, like just some of the battles and stuff. Like when I think about them in the Colosseum or whatever, I just think about like some of the battles, like with oh gosh, I can't even think of his name, between the Hound and Pedro Pascal's character in
no, wasn't it the Mountain that he fought?
Oh no, he fought the Mountain.
Yeah,
and it was the Mountain, and what was his name? Oh gosh.
Yeah, I can't. I like those people, the desert people. I really like them.
Yeah.
They were awesome.
No, he was one of my favorite, and I just remember like watching. I had fallen behind at the time, and I was watching the battle, and I'm like, no, the Viper's gonna win. The Viper's gonna win.
Which I mean, he would have.
It was close. It was close.
Stayed out of reach.
Exactly. That hubris.
But I mean, they both did end up dying eventually. Just the Mountain quite slower.
Yeah. But just kind of that battle and just that visceral, like those people in there, and just kind of how I imagine those people, like when he's talking about, let's see, he's got Switch, he's got what's the other guy, the big kind of brutish guy?
I
don't know.
Was it Gen?
Okay, there was a G. There was a G name in there.
I think it was Gen.
And then there were like two other S names.
And then there was that one woman that was
right. There was the guy, the guy and the girl. That were together, and he was the ex-military guy. He was the ex
she was busted for stealing because of the cut on her forehead. You could tell
nose. They slice their noses.
Yeah, and she was the doctor that fixed him up when he got beat up or something.
No, I think that was someone else. Because anyways, he's got basically 3 male friends, and then I think there's a female that goes along that was in a relationship with them.
And the only one that I can really remember is Switch. The rest of them I don't.
Yeah.
All right. Any other tabs you got, Alicia?
Chapter 56 kind of made me mad.
All right. What happened in that one? I can't remember.
That was right before he punches the priest. When in his head he's like trying to say how much he likes vodka, and then he randomly thinks a cat and then goes, well, cat would want me to be happy, and then just goes off and punches the priest. And I'm like, where do you get from A to E in 15 seconds? I don't know, like, if you cared for me that much, I wouldn't want to be like just a thought in your head that goes away the minute you look at something else.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you just justifies it.
It just bothered me. It was like it was mansplaining, justifying liking someone else.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm like, that just, I was just like, nope. And every time he would think about her, he'd be like, oh, but cat. And then he'd be like, oh, but I can talk to her. So let me go talk to her.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Kat's dead, but Volka's here, so you know. Like, and he
That's why I
gets
was like 15-year-old brain. That was totally a 15.
When he tries to hide the hissy fit of when the prostitute leaves her room and he sees him and he's just seething mad on the inside.
And she's like, what? Like,
yeah.
like, I was like, I like her for that.
Yeah. It's like, well, you can call one at any time too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that moral, high ground that he holds, and he's just like, oh, well, I'm better than you because I don't sleep with the help.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
I think that's what irritated me the most about him. I was like, stop it. Like, you're not. Like, you're teaching someone's kids because they know who you really are. You're not above anybody. Like,
right.
I don't know.
Yeah, it wasn't until the Count revealed that it's like, no, I totally told your father where you are, and he sent this letter just disowning you. So you're no one.
That's how shocked he was that he was disowning him.
I know.
It was obvious your father didn't like you. Like,
yeah,
it's not that hard to go from that to that.
Well, it wasn't so much that he was shocked that he'd been disowned. It was just that it was real. Like, it was where he knew he was going to be disowned once he got found out. It was like it was that, oh, I think I've still got that ace up my sleeve. And it turns out, oh, no, you haven't had that ace the entire time. You thought you did, but...
I kind of wonder what happened to his mother after he found out.
It's one of those things, like I said, they kind of describe the power dynamics where his dad needs the mother's family more than the mother's family necessarily needs the father. Yeah, they need him, but he still needs them more. So even if she got found out for doing what she did, he couldn't really move against her.
Yeah, that was the one part I liked before he left to become the Spolius. She was like, well, no matter how mad he gets at me, he can't do anything. I was like, I like you.
Yeah, but so she wasn't the matriarch of her family because her mother was still alive.
Yeah.
And her mother took the side of son-in-law. Like, no, just get rid of that one. We're done with
Right. Well, it's that political maneuvering. It's that, okay, are they going to benefit me or hinder me in my quest? Where, like I said, he talks about the grandmother being, basically the ruler of the entire providence, where she's responsible for that corner of the galaxy in the empire.
I think the grandmother was, 3,000 years old and the dad was like 500 or something?
I don't really remember. I don't think she was that old. I got the impression that it was like over 1,500 years was old.
Okay. That's so confusing. I didn't know what time period we were supposed to be following, because I know it was a future time period, but there was no delineation of what year it was supposed
I
to
want to say it's in the year 12,000. I think in the beginning it makes some mentions. I can't really recall.
Then you would go to when he was on that planet with Kat. The time was different. It was only 40 years or something.
Well, he only knew the local date for years, and he didn't know the actual. He couldn't figure out what the solar date was while he was while he was with Kat. Yeah. So did either of you get straight what was going on with Earth? So Earth is essentially the thing that the Chantry prays to, but it's alluded to that Earth is gone, the whole planet is gone.
Right.
But Mars is still around, so it wasn't something that happened to the solar system.
No, I think they make some allusions to it basically, and it's really funny because they kind of, I feel like they kind of throw the American way of life under the bus there, where they talk about the machines, and basically it sounds like they just nuked the crap out of Earth, it was just completely inhospitable anymore.
Which unfortunately, it's not that far from the truth now.
Yes, it's true. But it's one of those things where they call the machines, they call them the Americani. As some kind of weird wordplay on Americans.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
That's what I kind of got from that.
Totally went over my head, but that makes sense.
Kind of a merchant / American, where it was and they talk about the Daemon machines and how they, basically they created machines smarter than humans, and that kind of caused that Chantry, like why machines are so forbidden in the Empire, and why, because they had created these horrible machines that could wreak havoc on the universe, basically.
Okay.
Again, something taken from Dune. So.
Well, that's what's so funny. In the interview that I sent to you, he specifically says that he was inspired by Tolkien. He doesn't bring up like Dune at all. And I'm like, I didn't get as much Tolkien as Name of the Wind and Dune.
Yeah, I didn't get as much Tolkien either. But yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with things that are inspired by Tolkien, but I didn't get
I think a little bit more of the Tolkien-esque stuff comes in the later books.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's not there's things outside the Empire, which I like, which I only got to book 3 in the Dune verse, but everything was still, the Empire and the Spacer Guild and the Bene Gesserit, and that's what you had. But this one, you've got mention of the Extrasolarians, you've got the pirates and stuff, which you've got the Cielsen, and you've got other Xenobites, which is what they call the aliens, out and about. So that it's alluded to that the world is the universe is bigger than just this human empire.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely is, and it kind of also shapes that, just that kind of repression living inside the Empire about, there's a lot of real world stuff going on right now where just the flow of information and, how it gets shaped and turned and how it's used for, the people of the Empire, where they talk about, even when he finds out that the Dr. Velka has a computer inside her body, where it's just he's just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. Like, that just feels like such a perversion, where they're almost indoctrinated to be scared of things like that, just to be like sick of it, like when it's the realization that, oh yeah, it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah. And he takes full advantage of it when he needs to. So,
when she turns off all the lights. And...
shuts the power down and everything. One thing I really liked is there's like there's still a connection to like information or just knowledge from ancient history, but it's confused. Like, he keeps referencing someone named Sid Arthur, which I'm just assuming is just a mixture of El Cid and King Arthur, and that the legends just kind of got blurred, and so there's the lost and the telephone game of knowledge and history that some sci-fi I get kind of annoyed with, because it's supposed to be so distant in the future, but they reference back to things on Earth like the Second World War and stuff. It's
right.
Like who's going to care about Second World War when you got interstellar travel?
Like, I'm very new-ish to sci-fi, so I have no idea. Like, I mean, I've read George R.R. Martin, but that's more fantasy-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And like, the only other one that I've read is Dune, and I'm like, but what else is there? That's not like so old.
Oh, so much.
I'm like trying to find
like, and especially in veins like this series and Dune, they're epic stories. They're these huge stories where even just reading this one on its own, like I said, I admit I'm the fanboy of the group, but I can definitely sit here and look at this individual book and be like, But as far as a stepping off point, I feel like it does a good job where, like I said, with the next book, it goes into different stuff. It goes into that broader worldview. It goes into, different Xenobites in the universe and all that stuff, where it really, I feel like, as a standalone book, it can be kind of like, what's going on here? But as part of the overall series, I feel like it plays a decent part.
Which is why I want to continue, but I wasn't like going to jump right into it, because my brain was like, absolutely not. Like, my brain was like, no, you need to read something really short right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you like this, you would probably like the Inheritance trilogy from N.K. Jemisin. I got a lot of Inheritance trilogy vibes from this.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I need to read that trilogy.
You would love it because each book is like 300 pages and it's all in one bind up.
Oh, nice.
Actually, I've got it right here. Hold on.
All right, so okay,
It's 3 books and a novella in the same
nice.
book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, so star rating. What would you give it, Alicia?
I'm between a 3.5 and a 4. I'm
Okay.
like, yeah.
All right, I give it a 3 stars. Ryan, I assume you're giving it a 5, or
like I said, on the reread, I can understand as a single book giving it, between a 3 and a 4. As part of the series, I would definitely lean on the 4 for sure.
Yeah.
It's definitely not perfect, but it definitely is a good starting point and tries to, accurately follow this story arc. So yeah, I can see both points of view as being very valid.
I have a feeling it's going to be one of those books that I didn't like it at first, but like as I continue on in the series, it'll bump it up. That's the kind of feeling I get.
All right. So, do we want to give it a month and give the second one a try?
It's the same audiobook narrator, so I'm down.
Yeah. All right. We won't do it right away, but I'll give the second one a shot. If with the guarantee from Ryan here that it gets better. So if it doesn't, it's all your fault.
Okay, fair enough. Wasted your time.
It actually, I don't know, it just lagged in certain spots. Like I got through some parts of the book really fast, it felt like, and then others I couldn't get back to it. I felt like I set it down and then just I couldn't do it. And I had to force myself.
There were parts of it that I was like, I've been reading for 3 hours and I've only got 20 pages. Like, what's happening? Like, I don't understand. And then other parts, I'm like, I'm already 6 chapters back from where I was. Like, I don't know. The pacing was off.
Yeah, the pacing was a bit rough. Did you do it all audiobook, Alicia, or did you read some of it with your eyes?
I did both. I did I read along with the audiobook and then, yeah.
Okay.
Because I read the series, the Witchmark series that I was telling you about.
Yes.
And it was the same narrator, and it's so good. But it's funny enough because I actually watched an interview with the narrator. This is his first time narrating a book.
Really?
For Empire of Silence.
Wow, that's quite a page count to get for your first job.
Yep, and then now he's like, and he does a lot of romance too, which doesn't surprise me with him.
Oh, not at all. Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'm down.
All right. Any final thoughts on Empire of Silence?
It was like you said, I think as a stepping stone to the whole series, it's a good book, and there's definitely some pacing issues there where you're just like, I wish you would have spent less time on this, more time on that.
Yeah.
But he's trying to tell such a large story throughout it. Like like I said, it's turning into basically a 6-book series. He's building an entire universe. Christopher he writes so many novellas and short stories that are all based in the universe. Before he became a full-time writer, he was an editor for sci-fi books. So he would include stories built in this universe in some of the anthologies that he would edit and stuff. And he has, like, I know there's still one that I haven't read, which is a story about Hadrian's brother, Kristen, after Hadrian's gone. Is that his name?
Crispin. Yeah.
Crispin.
I
There
kept
you
on
go.
thinking of Crispin Glover every time he said it.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But basically, it's a story while Hadrian's off in the universe doing his thing about, internal threats to their family name and stuff, and how even someone like his brother Crispin, where it wasn't necessarily that he was a horrible human being, but he only understood violence, and that's how to get his, way in the universe.
Mhm.
Where he's written a couple books, and I like I said, I've got that one on my reading list. I just haven't gotten around to it, and it sounds like he does have some other ones, and I think there's even going to be one about Valka.
He's going to do, from the interview that my friend did a couple weeks ago, he's going to do a novella based on her, and then he wants to do like a special edition that has Hadrian's drawings along with the book.
Oh,
Oh,
If he gets another hardcover run, that's what he wants to do.
that'd be
All right.
awesome.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we should wrap it up there. We just hit an hour, so I think that's as much as we should give to our viewers.
Gotcha.
Here. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining me for this.
It was
For
fun.
anyone that's watching, the next live show I'm going to be doing is going to be a week from now, next Monday, with author Pippa Roscoe. Watch the time here. It's an AM show for us in the United States here, because Pippa is over in England. So 3:30 GMT, 11:30 Eastern, 8:30 Pacific time. And
I
then
just
the
got my
following
first
week.
Roscoe book.
Oh, you're
I
gonna
just
love
got it
it.
in the mail today.
You're gonna love it. It doesn't matter which one it is. It's gonna be great.
The one with the girl in the red dress.
Oh, okay.
It's the one
Yeah.
that just came out last month, I think.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Snowbound with his Forbidden Princess.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, it's good. It's good. You'll love it.
I can't wait to read it.
And then on March 28th, we have the wonderful author Laquette will be joining us. This will be 7:30 Eastern time, 4:30 Pacific. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight, and we will see you in the next video.
Bye.